All right, so welcome to video 2 of week 3, emotional intelligence. And today we are going to be taking our time and just getting to understand emotions a little better. And the information that I put down here is kind of a lot of information at once, but what we're just doing is kind of putting emotions under a microscope in a sense. So if you hang through this video, you will leave with a better understanding of emotions, what types of emotions, and how they could be useful in your recovery and in your experience of life, and how they're very influential. So let's get going. What are emotions? Right. Emotions are complex psychological and physiological responses that arise in reaction to certain events, thoughts, or experiences. Now, I was going to make a whole other video where this expert goes into detail that emotions are actually something that is like a summary of our memory and our system, our physical system, expressing itself in a feeling. But we just want to understand the basics of it, right? So the basics is that, and also what she said in that video was that even to this day, scientists have different definitions for emotions. But what we're looking at is just what we can witness and observe in ourselves. So that is basically that it's a complex mental and physical thing that arises when certain events, thoughts, or experiences happen to us. They can influence our thoughts, behaviors, and decision making, and are often felt as subjective experiences. So we've already gone over this in the mind module that you have thinking, and then you identify with the thinking, and it creates an emotion. Emotions serve as, but that's not the only way you get an emotion. You also get emotions, like a flight or flight response type of emotion. Some things just happen and they trigger you. And we'll go over triggers in the next video, but let's stay here. So emotions serve as signals to help us respond to our environment and are usually accompanied by physical changes like changes in heart rate, facial expressions, or body language. So think of your emotions as a signal that helps guide us to how we're going to respond to the environment that we're in, the situation that we're in, the communication that we're in. And we get an emotion, that is a signal. Okay. Emotions can be put into two categories. You have your primary emotions, which are basic, universal emotions that are generally immediate and instinctual responses to situations. And we'll go over what primary emotions there are. So primary emotions are basically natural occurring emotions that are universal. Every human experiences them. And they're generally immediate. A secondary emotion is a little more complex. It develops from a blend of primary emotions, often shaped by personal experiences, social interactions, and cultural influence. They tend to involve more thought and can be longer lasting. So secondary emotion is something that is a concoction of our beliefs and our thoughts and our perception of what's going on around us, and they form to create more complex type of emotions. So psychologist Paul Ekman identified 6 primary emotions which are believed to be universally experienced across cultures. So these are the primaries. Happiness, which is a type of joy, satisfaction, or pleasure, often encouraging positive social interaction. Sadness, which is a response to loss or disappointment, often helping us process difficult experiences. Fear, an alert to danger or threat, triggering the fight, flight, or freeze response. Anger is elicited by perceived threats or frustrations, often motivating us to defend ourselves or to take corrective action. Surprise, a reaction to something unexpected, which can lead to curiosity or heightened focus. And disgust. It protects us by triggering avoidance or rejection of harmful or undesirable things. And I just want to point out that sometimes we don't like disgust. We don't like anger or fear or being sad. But if you notice, these things are actually helping us. Like fear, for example, is alerting us that there's a nearby threat or danger. Sadness is helping us process difficult experiences. Disgust is protecting us. It's telling us to avoid or reject something that could be harmful or undesirable. So if we kind of start welcoming these emotions with open arms a little more, we'll start kind of making peace with like when we're feeling disgust, when we're feeling afraid. Okay, so secondary emotions. So those were primary, those are the universal ones. Now the secondary ones, which are a little more complicated. Secondary emotions are more nuanced, shaped by the interplay of primary emotions, and are influenced by our thoughts, memories, and social context. Love, a complex mix of joy, trust, and attachment, forming a strong bond or connection. Jealousy combines fear of losing someone or something with anger, and you often see it surface in relationships. Guilt and shame emerge when we feel we've acted against our values or hurt others. Guilt is linked to specific actions, while shame relates to self-worth. So guilt is linked to, I stole this person's food out of the fridge. Stole my roommate's food out of the fridge. Feel guilty about that. Shame relates to self-worth. That's when you say, I'm a bad person, and you feel shame. I'm a bad person for stealing that. So they come hand in hand. Some more secondary emotions. Pride, a positive feeling of accomplishment, mixing joy with a sense of self-worth or achievement. And sometimes we hear that pride is a bad thing. Pride could be a good thing. It kind of acknowledges your self-worth and it makes you feel good, being proud that you accomplished something. There's nothing wrong with that. Gratitude combines joy and surprise, resulting in appreciation for acts of kindness or support. Empathy, a mix of compassion and understanding, allowing us to feel and connect with others' emotions. Each emotion is like a guide, helping us understand what we need in different situations. And here's how the signaling works. So happiness and joy. It signals contentment, fulfillment, satisfaction with the situation, with the relationship, with the simple things or complex things. The need or desire that arises is to continue what's making us feel good or seek out similar experiences. And so this kind of relates to addiction a lot in the sense that we found happiness and joy in our addiction. Unfortunately, that is one type of happiness and joy, but it's kind of an artificial happiness in the sense that you have to keep going to the source to get it. And there's another happiness that could come from within, where you're completely content with yourself, with life as it is. You're fulfilled with who you are as a person, and people can't take that away from you. So this is kind of just talking about an external happiness and joy, but there's also an internal one that could be cultivated. And the action that it influences is happiness reinforces positive behaviors and choices, motivating us to repeat them, maintain bonds, or pursue fulfilling activities. And this isn't 100% on point. Because I can tell you right now, I found lots of happiness when I was using, and those weren't positive behaviors and choices that it reinforced. But that was an artificial type of happiness. When you find happiness in, like, winning a game with your team. You're going to want to do that again and keep those bonds with your team. Or if you find happiness in achieving a deadline at work, that's going to reinforce that, make you want to do it again. Or if you're just finding happiness in sticking to your exercise routine, that'll help you keep reinforcing positive behaviors and choices. So that's what that's talking about. So here's some examples of sadness. Sadness signals loss, disappointment, or unmet expectations. The need or desire that arises is to process, recover, or gain comfort and support from others. An action that arises from sadness often leads us to slow down, reflect, and reach out for comfort or understanding, facilitating a healing process or acceptance. So sadness could be very helpful in starting the healing journey. Fear. Fear signals danger or threat to safety, security, or well-being. The need or desire that arises is to protect ourselves or find safety, to distance ourselves. And the action that it could trigger is it activates the fight or flight or freeze response, preparing us to avoid harm. It prompts us to seek security or distance from the perceived threat. And this is often a emotion that's triggered by emotional triggers, right? This is one that often comes up. Anger signals injustice, boundary violation, or frustration. The need or desire that arises is to address a wrong, reassert boundaries, or overcome obstacles. So these are the positives that arise. It means something needs to be addressed if you're angry. It means perhaps a boundary was crossed and you need to reassert the boundary. And that's overcoming obstacles. And an action that it can motivate is it can motivate us to stand up for ourselves, correct wrongs, or assert limits, helping to protect our values, rights, and autonomy. So see, anger isn't always a bad guy. Surprise. Surprise signals unexpected events, new or unusual situations. The need or desire is to understand and process something novel, something new to us. And action that it could influence is the surprise captures our attention and heightens curiosity, allowing us to quickly assess whether the situation is beneficial or threatening and adapt accordingly. So disgust often signals exposure to something harmful, offensive, or toxic. The need or desire that arises is to avoid contamination or harm, often a physical or moral kind. And an action is that disgust causes aversion or withdrawal, protecting us from dangerous substances, unhealthy foods, or behaviors that violate our values. So those are all the primary emotions. Those are the universal emotions we all experience every day in our life. And we're going to go over just a couple secondary emotions to see what they trigger, the kind of responses they influence. Secondary emotions are more complex, can signal specific needs tied to our values, relationships, and self-image. So love can signal a need for connection, companionship, and belonging. Jealousy indicates a desire to protect valued relationships or maintain self-worth. Guilt signals a need to correct actions or reconcile with our values, often prompting repair or apology. Pride reflects a desire for recognition, self-worth, motivating us to pursue excellence and personal growth. So those are just some examples of how they act as signals. And ultimately, emotions are a wonderful felt experience of our life. They aren't always enjoyable, but can be managed to create an enjoyable life. By tuning into our emotions and understanding what they're signaling, we can make choices that align with our needs and desires, fostering emotional well-being and resilience. The difference between feeling an emotion and acting on an emotion. So this is what we're going to get into, and this is what needs to be understood when we are managing our emotions, is that you could totally feel the emotion. There's nothing wrong with feeling it and processing it, but acting on it is a whole other thing. So the difference is, control and choice. Feeling an emotion is often automatic, while acting on it requires conscious choice and control. Self-awareness. By pausing between feeling and acting, we can better understand our emotions and make more intentional, balanced decisions. It's very simple. It's called the pause. So you feel something, you pause. That's when you observe the emotion, you define the emotion, you try to understand what it is, and then from there you respond to it. This helps you avoid being mean to people, being rude, being too blunt or whatever. It helps you avoid all kinds of things that cause consequences. And here's another one. So consequences. Actions based on emotions have real-world effects on ourselves and others, so mindful action can help us avoid regrettable outcomes. Emotional intelligence, EI, is the ability to understand, manage, and use emotions effectively in various situations. It involves being aware of one's own emotions, recognizing the emotions in other people, and using this awareness to guide thoughts and behaviors in a constructive way that serves you, serves your goals, serves your purpose. High emotional intelligence helps with managing stress, communicating effectively, empathizing with others, overcoming challenges, and defusing conflicts. So it helps in relationships, it helps in your own personal experience with life. It's extremely useful to begin managing your emotions properly. Emotional intelligence in recovery. When emotions go unaddressed, they create stress, discomfort, or internal conflict that can drive individuals to seek relief through familiar coping mechanisms such as substance use, gambling, sex, eating, basically our addiction. If we're not managing our emotions properly and we're not addressing them, it's a matter of time before they become so overwhelming that the only thing we think we see as relief is going to our addiction. So this week, what we're going to do is basically start paying attention to our emotions. A simple way to do this is to keep an emotional awareness journal for the week. So just for this week, while you're doing while you're doing the emotional intelligence module, start tracking your emotions. You could do this in your journal. You could do this on your phone in your notes. Each day, note down 2 emotions that you experienced, and next to each emotion, the situation that triggered them. Write down the situation, and then write down how you responded. So this is something that you don't have to do in the moment. You could do it as an inventory at the end of the day. Like, what did I feel today? What caused that feeling? And how did I respond? This simple practice is powerful in building awareness of emotional triggers and starting to build your ability to observe emotions. This will enhance your ability to respond to emotions instead of react, because this whole journey is going from a compulsive reaction to life to a conscious response to life. That's what we're doing in the mind module. That's what we're doing with our purpose, applying our purpose in our daily life, is that we are no longer just going to be a compulsive reaction to the world. We're consciously creating our choices, creating our values, creating our mindset, and observing our emotions and managing our emotions. And just to reiterate again, you can do this on your phone during or right after experiencing the emotion if you don't have your journal. Attached is a downloadable PDF of a feelings inventory, and this is just something to download to your laptop or to your phone and use it when you try to identify your emotions throughout the week. Okay, this will help give you words and specify really what you're feeling while you're writing it down. And as always, celebrate yourself throughout this process. If you learned something new today, even if it was just one thing, that's a win. Just taking the time to invest in yourself is a win. And the people in your life and you will benefit from it. And remember to take your time. This isn't a race. And I will see you in the next video and in the community.